The anti-nuclear activist says, the closing of the nuclear power plant is a victory for the anti-nuclear cause. It also represents a belated acknowledgement by the power industry that they cannot operate such plants safely. So we're saying like, hey, closing this plant is a victory for us, and closing the plant represents that essentially the power industry has recognized that they can't operate their plants safely. Cool.
Okay. It represents no such thing, the availability of cheap power from non-nuclear sources, together with the cost of mandated safety inspections and safety repairs, made continued operation uneconomic. Thus, it was not safety considerations, but economic considerations that dictated the plant's closing.
All right, so what is the nuclear power plant manager's conclusion?
So they're saying that there was cheaper power available from like the non-nuclear sources, and also
Right, but what's his conclusion though? Like, what is the ultimate conclusion?
it was that
What is he
is it
argue for?
is it the last sentence that it was not safety but economic considerations?
Now, what does this support? Like, why do we come to this subsidiary conclusion?
Uh, um, well, he first says like it represents no such
That's
thing.
our conclusion. Yeah, he's arguing, right? He's saying, hey, it represents no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
We then why does it not represent such a thing? Like, why does it not represent a belated acknowledgement by the power industry? Well, because the cheap power from non-nuclear sources compared with the cost of the mandated safety inspections and safety repairs made it uneconomical. So it was not the safety considerations, but the economic considerations that made us close. Cool. And so us saying that it's this instead of this supports the idea that it represents no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the argument managers flawed? What would you predict here? Like, do you think that his reasoning is good, that it wasn't the safety considerations but economics?
I mean, it could have still been safety considerations
How?
that were like the main cause, I guess.
Yeah, because he says that it was like the cheap power combined with the cost of mandated safety inspections and safety repairs that made it not like. So yeah, it could have absolutely been the safety considerations that put it over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so go ahead and start with A and tell me if you like it, leave it, or hate it.
He fails to acknowledge that the power industry might not believe nuclear power plants to be unsafe, even though this plant was not closed for safety reason.
So, do we fail to acknowledge that the power industry might believe that the nuclear power plants are unsafe?
No,
Does it not represent is our issue with why it doesn't represent a thing because the power plants might believe they're unsafe?
no,
No, the power plant people
no.
think this. Yeah, so it's not A. All right, what about B?
Okay. Overlooks the possibility that the sources from which cheap power is available might themselves be subject to safety concerns. Um,
Oh.
I mean, it's possible,
Do we
but like,
care? But okay, our conclusion is it represents no such thing. Does it matter what's happening from the cheap power elsewhere?
oh, no, I guess not.
No, like that's not why. Like we can't be like, oh, it does represent such a thing because you didn't think about these other people. Like, yeah, we don't care if these other people suck too. Like, all right. Okay, so what don't you like about D?
Just because it talks about how um
So A
that
has one of its premises a view about the power industry's attitude towards nuclear safety that contradicts the activist view. Does that matter that we contradict the activist view?
yeah, it was like the word contradicts that made me think that it's not the right answer.
Industry's attitude. And then and power industry's attitude towards, like, do we care what the power industry thinks of the nuclear safety? And just because, does it matter that our attitude towards nuclear safety is different than the activist view towards nuclear safety?
No.
No, like it's, yeah, our issue isn't that they have different opinions. All right, so what is C saying?
So it mistakes the issue of what the closure of the power plant represents to the public for the issue of what the manager's reasons for the closures were. So I know it's saying how um I think it's saying how like the issue for the public's issue for like why the plant was closed is like mistaken for what the manager's reason for the closure. Well, like the public's reason was like for safety, and the manager's reason was saying it's because of the economic
Yeah, and did
stuff.
she mistake those two for each other?
No,
No, like he doesn't, like we don't confuse them. Like he doesn't say um like what I think is actually what the public is or whatever.
right? Yeah,
All right, and then E says counts as purely economic considerations some expenses that arise as a result of the need to take safety precautions. Does this happen?
yeah.
Yeah, because it says that um we only think about these as like economically, not safety, but maybe because we weren't safe. So the cost of mandated safety inspections and safety repairs, it's not just economic considerations, it's also safety considerations, but he only counted it as economic.
Yeah.
So that's why E's our answer.